$700? Are you out of your mind? In this economy? Sony just unveiled their new PlayStation 5 Pro and people are split on the reveal. You have one half of gamers really liking the blend of fidelity and performance modes that they showed off, while the other half is going crazy over the price point revealed. Myself? Well, you know where I stand on it already. Now, when it comes to the level of hype this presentation had, going into it, everyone seemed like they were already cautiously optimistic. People already pretty much knew, and leaks had come out, that the console was being revealed at this event. But nobody knew to what level the console itself would perform at if games were being revealed alongside it, and of course, what the price was going to be. The presentation itself focused on a major point of performance for the PS5 Pro. To break it down, most major games nowadays have a performance mode, making the game run at a smoother frame rate while sacrificing some of the visuals for the game, and a fidelity mode, making the game look graphically better but at the cost of performance. Their major point being the blending of being able to run big AAA games in both performance and fidelity modes simultaneously, letting you see the sharper images and great graphical advancements modern games have while also running at constant and high frame rate. One thing revealed at least from the PlayStation side in this presentation is that through their data and their analysis of it, 3/4 of the time or 75% of the time, when players are asked to choose between the two modes as of now, on consoles not being able to do both at the same time, players are usually picking the performance mode over fidelity mode. I personally am among those people, and it's not because I think higher visuals aren't worth playing at 30 frames a second. It's because usually when you aren't in performance mode on some of these modern games, the frames fluctuate way too much. So yeah, the game is stable in frames at parts because they still want you to know how good this game can run, but then it mars the gameplay completely because out of nowhere it feels like you're playing a PowerPoint presentation. So in order to skip this altogether, I usually just play on performance mode at the cost of visuals. Moving on, Mark Cerny then reveals the big three that the PlayStation 5 Pro has and what it offers to anyone thinking about picking up the console. These three are a larger CPU, advanced ray tracing, and AI-driven upscaling. Now let me preface this with saying I'm not a big tech guy. I'm a guy who grew up playing console games on tube TVs and switched to majority PC gaming all of high school and college, but I came right back to consoles later on. This section in particular did almost nothing to get me hyped for the console. I'm about as casual as it gets when it comes to talking about specs. I was happy to see advanced ray tracing because I almost never experienced it since I always choose performance mode though. And this console blends the two modes to give you the best experience. As someone with this mindset, I was waiting to see if some of the footage shown would wow me into thinking this was worth the upgrade. Sadly though, it didn't end up being the case. During their explanation of the big three, they introduced their concept of PSSR, or as I like to call it, pisser, to represent the piss they're taking on anyone who buys this console on launch. All jokes aside, essentially this is how they're able to upscale a lot of their images down to the pixel in order to make their overall images look a lot better. Which is a cool addition, but I was still waiting to see actual footage and comparisons to see how overhauled these images would actually be. They do provide a section of gameplay from The Last of Us 2, and to be fair, this game, even though it already looked amazing back when I played it on PS4, truly did look phenomenal when it came to its PS5 Pro comparison. Even when they do their side-by-side comparison with the PlayStation 5 Pro and a regular PlayStation 5 running the game on fidelity mode, there was still a noticeable difference, at least to me, when I was looking at the foliage around her and even the clothes and hair Ellie has in the shot shown. But it still isn't something like a graphical overhaul big enough to have me booking a pre-order right when it goes live. It could possibly be a scenario where unless you're playing these games at the highest possible frame rate you can, and at these visuals across the board on any game you play, maybe you would feel a little bit differently. But it's just not something I'm willing to shell out for personally, at least not yet, and I'll get more into that later. The part that really did it for me, that showed me this console just seemingly wasn't for me at this point in time, was the side-by-side comparison shown for The Last of Us 2 on the Watchtower. Currently, I in fact do have a PlayStation 5 from the original batch that came on launch for the console, and if you told me to keep that current console to get the image on the left, which I paid for about 4 years ago, or pay an additional $700 in the coming months to get the visual enhancements shown on the right, yeah, I think I'll just be sticking with my current PS5. Again, the visual enhancements are noticeable for sure. The windows themselves aren't just a reflection, you can see through them. The foliage looks way more lively and not just a blur at a distance, but this is something I had to catch from pausing the presentation and picking things out, and doesn't necessarily mar the overall gameplay experience or honestly even the graphics to a degree. Like, if you told me to pick out which one is better, obviously the Pro would win, but it would take me a second to see the differences even if they were labeled like this from the start. The PlayStation 5 Pro seems to be really good at upscaling things that are farther away from you, and that's all well and good, but not a real selling point to me in a pricey console, of which I already have a PlayStation 5 they sold me not too long ago. When you have to literally pause to see the differences in fidelity, I feel like you have a problem with the improvements not being so worth it. At that point, it just feels like it's really not that big of a difference, and overall, not really a big leap in any direction when it comes to what fans want out of a new console iteration. Finally, after showing off some more clips of gameplay on the Pro and more technological talk for the console, they hit us with the price and it's just absurd. $700 US, not including tax, set for release November 7th, 2024. While also stating that to have a stand for the console or have a disc drive on it, that they will have to be bought separately as accessories for the console. So assuming you want a PlayStation 5 Pro with a disc drive to play physical games and want proper airflow for your console by having a stand, all while getting taxed along the way, you're looking at spending around a little less than $900, making this essentially the iPhone of console gaming. All this so games can run the way most people are already opting to play them now performance-wise, but getting slightly better visuals overall that you really won't fully notice at times, especially in faster-paced moments. Not to mention, depending on where you live, this console can feel insanely more expensive depending on your currency and how it is currently trending globally. I mean, we have inflation going crazy, especially in the past couple of years, and some currencies like the yen have been at an all-time low when compared to something like the US dollar. Even if you're one to spend money frivolously on your favorite hobbies, or simply put, you can just afford to buy these things without having to eat half of a cup of ramen for the next 2 weeks, it just seems like they're asking a lot while providing so little in return, both technologically and physically, because they took the stand out of the damn box to sell it to you separately. Not to mention, all of the games advertised and shown off with these upscaled visuals and performance being tied together are all games that have been out for months, if not years. No new announcements or new games built with this technology in mind were shown off to people to display why this PS5 Pro should be flying off the shelves. And that's where I think they went terribly wrong. I think this is where they should have waited to release this when they had the content ready. There are two ways I think this could have gotten people really interested, and they both involve showing off games. 1. Show off a first-party title like the next God of War or the next Last of Us and show 30, 20, 10 seconds even of how good these games are going to look on the PlayStation 5 Pro. Or 2, if they still have their marketing deal active with Rockstar Games, have them display their second trailer for the game and have the gameplay moments for the trailer running on the PlayStation 5 Pro. Giving people a glimpse of what the future would look like, even if it might look similar on whatever the next step for Xbox might be, would have gone a long way, I feel. Even with all of this though, I wouldn't be surprised if the initial batch of PlayStation 5 Pros still sell out. A lot of people have to have the newest version of things, especially when it comes to things they use daily. And just like iPhones, I think people will be clamoring for the newest and best versions the company has to offer, even if the upgrades aren't necessarily anything to write home about. So I'm curious to see when pre-order and sale numbers drop, what they'll end up looking like when they're released. With all of this, there are a couple of things to take away in terms of value and where we are in this generation of gaming. For one, usually when the Pro versions of PlayStations come around, that means we are about 4 years away from the new generations of PlayStations being released. So within 2 to 3 years, expect a reveal for the next generation of hardware. This can be backed all the way up back to the PS3, which was released in 2006, When the Slim came out, it came out in 2009, and when the PlayStation 4 came out, it was during 2013. It's worth mentioning that the PlayStation 3 didn't have a quote-unquote Pro variant, and that its Pro variant was essentially just the PlayStation 3 Slim. As mentioned before, the PlayStation 4 was coming out in 2013, and led to the PlayStation 4 Pro coming out in 2016. And then 4 years later, we got the PlayStation 5 in 2020. Now being on the PlayStation 5 and having the PlayStation 5 Pro coming out, it means that PlayStation 6 will more than likely be coming by 2028, with a reveal likely happening mid to late 2027. On top of that, I do think a select group of people, even if they want to upgrade but don't want to shell out the full $700, do have a viable option. You could always try selling or turning in your PlayStation 5 to someone like GameStop to get what you can to go towards the PS5 Pro. If you feel the years are catching up to your PlayStation 5, or your PlayStation 5 has a couple of minor problems, you could always turn it in, have GameStop refurbish it while you get some money to put towards the Pro if you so wish. Currently, a regular PlayStation 5 is going in for $250 on a trade-in without a Pro membership boost, and it would take the PS5 Pro down to a $450 price point. This isn't optimal, but it's a way you can get the upgrade if you really want it without paying the full $700. But my biggest takeaway in terms of value for the PlayStation 5 Pro is because there is no must-have game to play on it on release. It's possible that we can wait out the Pro's release and have the price start to have some deals just in time for the games we would like to experience on it. Next year, as of right now, we have Grand Theft Auto 6, which is set to be one of the biggest and best looking games in recent memory, slated for 2025. And I'm sure Sony will finally be revealing at least 2 new coming exclusives next year as well. Having the Pro release right now might give it enough breathing room between now and then for it to come down at least during something like Black Friday, where you get some of these games bundled with the console, or at least save a couple of bucks when trying to pick up the Pro itself. Overall though, I myself am pretty disappointed with the reveal for the PlayStation 5 Pro, and of course the insane price point it has with it. Let me know what you guys think about the console, the price, and the accessories being sold for it separately in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. If you enjoyed or found it entertaining, make sure to scroll down and hit that like button and make it glow so we can reach our goal of 25 likes for this video. While you're down there, consider subscribing as we will be covering more console news as updates come out, AAA games throughout the year, hilarious content, and more. As always, your support through your viewership, liking, and subscribing is always greatly appreciated and helps me out tremendously against the tax that is the YouTube algorithm. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to catch you guys next time. Peace!